In these frames, we can see how migrant gangs blow up cars and loot stores. This is how rival gangs settle scores with each other. This is a difficult time for Sweden. I can't even put into words how serious this situation is. Sweden has never faced anything like this before. No other European country has anything similar. Less than 10 years ago, Sweden had the lowest rate of gun crime in all of Europe. The most criminal countries in Europe were always considered to be Belgium, France, and Britain, with London and Marseille being the crime capitals. But today, Sweden has entered the top 3, pushing England aside. It now ranks 3rd. In Stockholm, there are about 30 times more armed attacks than in London. The country has been consumed by a war between criminal gangs, which are almost exclusively made up of immigrants. Sweden's generous welfare system and liberal asylum laws have made it a magnet for migrants. 2015 was a record year. More than 160,000 people arrived in the country. Among migrants, almost half are unemployed, and almost all live on welfare. They mostly live in poor suburbs and are not integrated into Swedish society. These are the people who are recruited into criminal gangs. Sweden's GDP per capita is around $60,000, making it one of the richest countries in the world. Life expectancy is 83 years, and the country has one of the best healthcare and education systems in the world. Sweden ranks first in many areas, but when it comes to immigration and integration, the results are grim. The country is often called a social democratic utopia, a middle ground between capitalism and socialism, a welfare state that takes great care of the elderly, the sick, the unemployed, and refugees. But this system is only a few decades old. Sweden became wealthy and prosperous even before creating its strong welfare system. In the 1870s, the Swedish economy lagged far behind other Northern and Western European countries. Its GDP per capita was half of Britain's. 3/4 of the population worked in agriculture, a hard job in a subarctic climate. The country developed strict work discipline that emphasized hard work, personal responsibility, and family values. When industrialization began, Sweden became the fastest-growing economy in the world. Swedes were reliable, hardworking, and responsible. They remained neutral in both world wars and built a more moderate version of a welfare state than the one we see today. Sweden's road to prosperity was characterized by free market policies and limited government intervention. It wasn't until the 1960s that more radical social reforms were introduced. One popular concept became known as folkhem, the people's home. It described Sweden as one big family where citizens should care for each other like brothers and sisters. This philosophy partly explains why Sweden accepts refugees. Today, Sweden's welfare state provides massive social benefits to both citizens and immigrants. When a child is born or adopted, each parent gets 240 days of parental leave. Retired couples receive pension payments almost equal to their salaries before retirement. Healthcare and education are mostly free and among the best in the world. But this generosity requires funding through taxes. In the 1950s, the income tax rate was 21%. Today, the average Swede pays around 50%. Just imagine you earn 2,000 euros a month and have to give half to the government. But how does this affect the economy? This is the GDP growth chart. Most major reforms took place between 1968 and 1975. The 1980s and 1992 were tough for the country. In 1975, Sweden was the 4th richest country in the world. By 1993, it had fallen to 14th place. Employment levels didn't grow much. In 2014, they were no higher than 30 years earlier. Social inequality in 2013 was almost the same as in 1950. Still, by the time the new government came in, Sweden was wealthy and full of potential. People saw their country as one big family, a society where everyone got along and was equal. And that principle was extended to refugees. In 1987, 3% of Sweden's population were immigrants from outside the EU. By 2013, it was already 12%. And something interesting happened when these migrants arrived. A study found that migrants from Iraq who fled Saddam Hussein in the 1980s and 1992 were 2.5 times more likely to get higher education than native Swedes. But once in Sweden, only 18% of them found jobs. Why? Sweden's immigration strategy was to spread migrants across the country to reduce pressure on big cities, but the government often ignored local economic conditions. Also, about 2/3 of jobs in Sweden are filled through personal connections, which is hard if you don't speak the language or have contacts. Even so, the welfare state covered their basic needs. But in the 2000s, immigration policy changed. More and more migrants arrived for humanitarian reasons. In 2015, this process peaked. Sweden accepted 160,000 refugees in just 1 year. Most came from Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, fleeing war. By 2021, 20% of Sweden's population was of foreign origin. Many ended up in poor suburbs. They struggled to integrate and didn't feel part of society. Many migrants lived in poverty and relied entirely on benefits. This became a burden on the country and fertile ground for crime. Recent waves of violence have been led by second-generation immigrant gangs. They recruit teenagers from poor neighborhoods. At first, they dealt drugs, but in recent years, they've infiltrated government institutions and political parties, making money through fraud and other crimes. It's hard to say exactly, but one study estimates these criminal organizations earn around $500 million a year. More than half of Sweden's serious prison inmates are first-generation immigrants, and 45% of Sweden's unemployed were born outside Europe. This community has become a heavy burden on the country. The current prime minister has moved away from tradition supporting lower taxes, free market policies, and economic liberalism. He works closely with the Sweden Democrats. His right-wing coalition believes the growing gang violence is directly linked to past immigration policies. The foreign minister stated, "Today we see that marginalization, poor integration, combined with drug trafficking and organized crime, create a toxic mix. It would be short-sighted to blame immigration alone, but government policies on migrant integration clearly contributed to the worsening situation. The idea of a full return to capitalism is not widely supported, but the government's reforms show that change is needed. They are tightening immigration rules and trying to better integrate those already in the country. For children of mixed nationality parents, attending kindergarten is now mandatory to help them learn Swedish. Will Sweden overcome this migration crisis? Or will migrants permanently damage its economy? The answers will come soon. Subscribe to our channel EuroShift and share your thoughts in the comments below.